University family, I wanted to go over with you the membership engagement survey that we had this year that many of you filled out for 2024. We did this back in May and really kind of mid-May to the end of May, and had some of it still being turned in June, but we didn't want to wait too long to give you the results. So I want to give you the results of this and just kind of show you what we took away as a leadership team, as the staff have gone over this, and then all of the team leaders and elders and look at this to learn. And so I want to go through as quickly as I can. It'll take a little bit of time though, so most of this you can probably just listen to, but there will be pieces where I have it on this screen, so if you need to see it, it'll be up on the screen, but I want to make this as concise as possible. I'll just say this here, if you want any more information, I'm not going to go through all of the answers for everything, but if you want more information on any of it, you can message me. I can share with you the document that has every single answer. We don't want to hide any of that. There's not any of it that we're afraid of or anything, and so we want to make it clear to you, but going through all of it would take a very, very long time. So, all right, so this is the third year that we've done it, and in 2022, we had 88 people who did the survey, 23, 64 people. This year, our goal was to break 100 because we had a decline, and so we talked about it more, presented it more, and we had 104 do it. So thank you for filling that out if you filled it out. If you didn't, then you missed out on the opportunity there. So there's always next year. But we changed some of the questions in here and some of the format for that. And so I'll explain why we did that too as we go along. Know also that between last year and this year, we had 40 more people do it. Now we pushed it more, but when you get 40 more people to do it, you find that some of your answers are very different than the year before, and which is good because I think this actually gives us a truer picture of the state of spiritual health of our church and the church body. And I know this isn't an exact representation, but it gives us some idea. So the first question we had was, how long have you been attending FCC? Green is 2 years or more, then 6 months to 2 years, and the yellow 6 months, 6 times to 6 months, and then 5 times or less. And so we didn't have anybody who filled it out this year that has been here 5 times or less. I don't know that that says anything too much other than everybody's been here at least for a little bit of time. This is about the same as the last couple of years though. In the last year, how many semesters have you joined a small group? And so what we see as a win is when somebody is in at least 2 small group semesters in the year. Now, we would ideally like for everybody to be in as many as possible. It just doesn't work for people's schedules even for you to be in them, and we get that. So our number here of the green, they've been in 3 semesters, meaning they were in the fall, spring, and summer, is what we're looking for. So we have about as many people who were in that as the previous year. And then our secondary number, where they've been in at least 2 semesters, which is still fantastic, is a little lower than the previous years. I wouldn't take too much thought into this, but we had 22% of people who filled it out who have not been in a small group semester at all. Now, that is it may sound a little concerning because small groups we believe are so incredibly important. Something to remember about this though is that this is mostly members who filled this out, so people who come on Sunday morning. And we have more people, a lot of semesters, we have more people in our small groups than we do have show up on Sunday morning, and those people aren't filling it out. And so this isn't a true number, but we have been looking into, we just had a meeting this morning about it even, about why is it that so many people have not been in a small group semester. And one of the other things we're trying to figure out too is, and we have somebody helping us on the numbers with this. Joel Holland loves doing this stuff. He's going to help figure out how many of those people that are have not been in a small group at all, how long have they been coming? Does that correlate to somebody who hasn't been coming very long? Because if it does, then we need to find better ways maybe to get people connected. And if it's people who've been coming a long time, maybe it's they don't see the value in a small group. Maybe this was just a busy season for them. There could be a lot of different reasons, and so you have to be careful not to play too much into the data and overthink the data. But This is what we have. Still a big win for us. We have a ton of people in small groups, and this does not capture nearly the amount of people in small groups. We had 104 people fill this out. I don't remember the number from the last small group semester in the spring, but I believe it was about 250. I'll have to check with that. Don't quote me on that. We'll have to ask Mark Wise about it. But, third question that we have, in the last year, how many times have you served outside of FCC for the kingdom of God? That was our question in 22 and 23. We changed this, and we realized in going over this with the leaders, we need to change it again. We changed it to how often are you serving to grow the kingdom of God? And the reason we did this is because now inside of First City with FC Outreach, with Families Count, with Feed Fosters, there's so many ways, we wanted to make sure in the past that people were not just serving inside the church, but were also serving outside, other places, sharing Jesus. But now we have so many opportunities for people to serve outside, even though it's a part of the church. And so we felt like we needed to combine it. However, our options, you can see on our options, we only have 4 options. In the past, we had 6 different options of things you could select. That was one thing we changed. We wanted all of the answers to only have 4 options. And so that changed a lot of things. And when we looked at this again, after we got it back, it was confusing. At our quarterly leadership meeting, one of our team leaders, I don't remember who it was, brought this up and said, hey, this question itself doesn't make sense because we say, how often are you serving? And then it's either not yet, 1 to 2 events per year, 3 to 4 events per year, which makes it sound like could be any time. And then we have weekly service, which is, so it's either 3 to 4 events per year or weekly service, which is 52 times in a year, right? And so we're going to clarify this question in the future. I think what we learned from it still, though, is that we have a serving church. You love to serve, and that's growing. We're grateful for that. My only probably concern in serving is that so often in churches you have this same, I think the saying goes, you have 20% of the people that do 80% of the work. And so we want to make sure that everyone is serving as part of the body of Christ. And I know everybody's gifts and talents are different, and times and schedules and all those things. But we want to make sure not only is everybody serving, but we're giving good opportunities, because I think when people come in, they don't really know what to do to serve. And you may be in that position too. They don't really even know where to go or what to turn to. And so we need to make that clear and abundantly easy for people. Fourth question. I have a meaningful connection with one or more other members of First City. So this question changed dramatically. So in the last 2 years, the blue was saying, yes, I do have a meaningful connection with someone, and the red was saying no. The problem with this question in the past, the reason we wanted to change it is because, and Erica Carr and I have been going over the questions. One of the things I said is I don't like about this question is that I think if you're filling out the survey, then you probably already have a good connection with somebody. And so we're not looking to see really if you have a good connection with somebody. We want to make sure that whether you have 0 connections with people at First City or 100, that's growing every year. And so the new question, in the last year, I've made a new meaningful connection with a member of First City Church. And you can see between our strongly agree and agree, it's a little over, what is that? It's 58.7 and 33.7 down here. So a little over 90%, the vast majority. And so we got a small percentage that is not, which I still think that is, there's some concern in that, and we want to make sure that people are connected. I think this is one of the hardest things about going to a new church and going to a new place is it can be great. You can have a wonderful children's ministry, and you can think the preaching and worship are great and all the things are good and they're biblically based, but if you don't get a meaningful connection with somebody, if you feel like you don't have a friend there, that is like, well, you're going to go somewhere else probably. And so this is part of why, if you're a member, I've said this before many times, but you are automatically a part of the First Impressions team. Like, you help welcome people in, get to know people. If you're able to, invite them to lunch if they're a new person. Find ways to connect with people. Invite them to your small group. Just encourage them in that, and make sure we're doing that. Question, I think this is 5. I might have gotten lost on it. How often do you spend intentional time with Jesus each week? So the only thing we changed with this, we didn't really change the question. We actually just changed the answer format. So up here, we have consistently gotten good answers for this, or I think favorable answers for this. What we think the ideal thing is that you spend time with Jesus every day. That it's not just a Sunday morning, it's every day, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, that you're spending some time in the Word, in worship, in prayer, growing your relationship with the Lord. And this to me is one of the most, if not the most important question. I think if we're getting this right, then we're going to get everything else right. If we are a church body of people who take intentional time to be with God, everything else will fall into place. Like, we'll be more organized, we'll communicate better, we'll welcome people in better, all of the things will be right because Jesus solves all of that for us. Next question, how many unchurched people have you invited to FCC in the past 6 months? So that was the question. The question itself did not change, but the answers changed. So we went from 0 people, 1 person, 2 to 3 people, 4 to 5 people, and this is, we just went 4 to 5 is the max, so, or 4 or more is the max. And here's what I hoped that we would have, because in the highest number on these two, just because you may not be able to see all of this, the purple and the green are the goal, and here the green is the highest number, and so they're about the same. It's not much different. My hope, honestly, was that this would be vastly more different because we've been doing Who's Your One, and so I think this is, so what I learned from this is that even though we're doing Who's Your One, this is something that we need to talk about more often, that we need to bring up more often. We need to make sure we're pushing, we need to make sure that we're encouraging people in it, because we have 21% of people who have not invited anyone in the past 6 months. Now, we don't know all the reasons behind that, whether it's you feel like you haven't had an opportunity, although 6 months is a long time to not have an opportunity, right? If we're being honest with it. I think if we're not feeling the need to bring people in, if we're not feeling the need to share Jesus with people, we are missing something in here. And so that's not, I'm not like putting all that on y'all. When I read this, I think that's on me, and to make sure that we're sharing that and reminding everybody of that, because we all need reminded of things. But overall, most people are inviting pretty regularly. This is a pretty common thing. So continue to invite, continue to bring in, continue to be praying over Who's Your One. The last 3 questions that we have here, I won't go into too much detail about the very last one, but this one, what's working well at FCC? Now, we had a ton of answers here, and this is what we try to do when we see this. We try to pick out themes in this, and so Jesse and I went on a trip a couple of weeks ago, and we literally went through every single answer and put a tally beside it. And I was trying to pick the 3 top answers for both of these next 2 things. For this question and the next question, what's working well and where are we struggling, or what's a growth area. But this one I had 4 that were way too close, and some of them I had to kind of mix together a little bit, but let's go through it. The 4 that we kept seeing that were way above the other ones, we can only change and work on so many things at a time, and so we try to be selective and pick the ones that we see that are themes. So what's working well at First City? Outreach. So outreach, this was not just FC outreach, although that was part of it. This was really, I'm going to categorize this as all the work that we do in the community for vulnerable children and families. This was mentioned many, many times, and I can see why we're intentional about it. When I asked the leaders, whenever we went over this with all of our leaders, my question was, why do we think this is something that people are writing, and what do we need to make sure to do to continue this? And so I think just keeping that at the forefront of everybody. The next thing was Sunday services. Some people talked about worship, some people talked about teaching and preaching and kids stuff and kids ministry on Sunday morning. And so it was all things wrapped around Sunday morning. And so we want to just continue what we're doing there, continue to bring the word of God, continue to encourage people, continue to invite people into salvation. The other thing that's working well is small groups and fellowship. Small groups was number one. So I know that we had earlier on the list that a lot of people aren't in small groups. Small groups was the thing that was mentioned the most of all of these. And I'm going to say it was small groups, fellowship, and community, the idea of belonging, which is, it was kind of all of those meshed together. Small groups are just working well. We have room for improvement everywhere, but they're working incredibly well. Mark Wise and Barbara Dean lead that, and they do just a phenomenal job. And I think part of the reason that this is going well is we make sure to really push small groups every semester. We have a fair. We make sure that people know about the fair so they can sign up for the small group. We try to be really intentional about it. And then the last one, welcome and loving environment. This was mentioned over and over and over and over again, that we are a church that welcomes and loves people when they walk in the door. Now, so that's good news. I would think most people who fill this out feel like we do have a loving environment. It's really the ones who didn't fill this out because maybe they didn't feel that or may have missed that in there. That may be an area to think through, but for the most part, this is what we got. These were the four common ones that we have. What can be improved at First City? The most common answer we had was not sure and cannot think of anything. And I really appreciate that you write that, but that's not helpful. No. I want to know what it is that we can work on. The two things that we had that were, I'm going to say actual answers, that came up the most were communication and our physical building, which I was so excited to hear because of all the problems that you can have at a church. To me, these are ones that are fixable, if you will, the ones that we can do something about. So communication, talking about events and things, and I want to talk to you about what we're doing to fix both of these also. So communication, some people actually listed this as a good thing, that communication was better. Not that many though. More people listed it as a problem area, that they didn't know about events, they didn't know about things coming up, that it was website issues or this issue, and it was like we didn't know, things weren't communicated well. So here's what we're doing to fix communication. This is our first big step in this. We talked about this as a team. In August, we are going to start, August 4th, you should see it. In August, we're going to have a monthly newsletter that comes out. And it will be, that newsletter will talk about all the events, all the things that we have in that month and the next month. So the August newsletter will have stuff for August and September. Then in September, there will be a new newsletter the first Sunday, and it'll be all the things September and October, so we can stay a month ahead. We want to use this as a hub for communication. We cannot put all the details about everything on there, but we can put all the events that we have, where to get more information, QR codes so that people can scan and know where to go. So that is our next step in communication. How we're fixing that, how we're moving forward on that. We're hoping that this erases some of the I just didn't know about it, or where do I get more information? How do I find out more? Any of those things. So communication with shades there. The physical building. We had so many people mention this, and I could not agree more that our building is struggling. We've been in the middle of a Hurricane Sally claim now it's coming up on 4 years. I think September is 4 years. And so we're still dealing with that. Just so you know, Savannah just did the deposition last month. Mediation begins, I think it's August 8th or 9th. I don't remember exactly. So we're hoping that some of that will end soon. But even once that does end, that will not solve all of the building issues. It's not like everything will then just be fixed. Some of it will be. Here's one of the steps that we've taken is we've hired someone. Austin has begun working on a lot of the building, and we hired him as our maintenance handyman, and so he's doing a lot of this stuff around the building. One of the things we talked about with the leaders is kind of breaking up projects around the building, because there's a lot of things that need done in the parking lot, and there's a lot of holes that need patched and different things, and some of that we have been given permission to work out through our Hurricane Sally claim. Some of it we're not supposed to really yet. If you're someone who doesn't mind leading one of those projects, because we're trying not to put all of this on one person, and you think, hey, I am gifted in maintenance, construction things, and I have some free time and would be willing to do that, let me know, because we're trying to divvy this up to make sure that everybody, that we can get a lot of things done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around here. Our building is super old, and we're super grateful for our building, but it is old. So those are kind of the things that we're taking a step forward in that. If you have any other thoughts about this or anything on here, let me know. If you have some ways that you think could improve, I would love more feedback from the feedback that we got. So for the last question, we have, who would you like to recognize for their impact? I decided not to list them all out. I don't know how we would fit all the names on the screen. We'd have to write really small. There were about 45 to 50 names that were mentioned. And here's what I don't want is I don't want somebody to be left out of this, because many of you serve and no one sees it. And so thank you for recognizing those people. If you really just want to know who it is and who the names were, we can send it to you. But I do want to make sure that we're giving God all the glory for it. So thank you for the way that you serve. Thank you for all the work that you do to keep First City going and going successfully and going in the direction that Jesus wants it to go in. So that's all I really have for you. Not too much else to share. If you have any other questions about anything on here, if you want more information, if you have some ideas for feedback on different things, you can message me, tell me on Sunday. You can respond to this video and I'll see it at some point on there. But I think that's it. All right. Thank you for doing this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been super helpful. I love hearing about all of this. I love seeing all of the things that were our growth areas and our areas that we're doing well in and areas that we're not doing so well in, and all those things. This is fun for me. That may be weird to you, but it's fun for me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you all. Y'all have a wonderful day.